Well, thank everybody for tuning in to this brief video training. We're probably going to do about a 20-minute training here on this particular video, and I've been asked by so many people in response, and I want to say thank you to everyone who reached out privately to my LinkedIn, both video posting as well as my article on this topic. Many of you were asking for, is there a way to get more information? Could you do some kind of short training on this topic? And can we do it someplace other than on LinkedIn so that perhaps it would be away from prying eyes from potential employers, current employers, or colleagues? And this is the kind of thing that we're doing on Facebook. In fact, we're going to be forming a new closed group on a brand new Facebook page that's just for salespeople. That'll be coming up very soon. So if you like and follow this particular Solaris page, you will automatically get an invite to the other page when that loads. That particular Facebook page and closed group is just going to be for client facing, revenue generating people, whether you're a classic hunter, business development person, whether you're a client partner or somehow involved in that revenue generating chain in the technology, sales, and services arena. That's really going to be for you. And I want to talk a bit about the deck we're going to talk about today. We're going to walk through kind of a templated version of what we use for our clients when we're doing sales transformations and some of the people may be leaving. Part of the services that we offer to them is help in actually generating this new version of this plan, because the market today has become very competitive, and we're talking about positions that typically are well into the six figures, typically $150,000, $200,000 per year on base. If you're not really at that level, this may not be for you, or if you're trying to get to that level, this probably is for you. But what I wanted to make sure you all understood is that, while the economy is doing really, really good right now, what's happening and why, if you're in the job market or looking for other opportunities, you may find it doesn't seem like there's that much opportunity, or you're not hearing back as much. And it's quite frankly, what's happening is so many people who had moved into some kind of part-time role or consulting role because they just really couldn't find the right full-time opportunity during the recession have now come back into the markets. What we hear about in the news called the labor participation rate is going up. So there are a lot of candidates now in the market who are applying for these jobs. And if you're on LinkedIn or other portals where it shows you the number of applicants, you'll often see, 50, 60, 70, or 100 people applying for even a really relatively basic 10 years of experience, business development or client partner role. So this whole deck really is designed to help you compete more effectively in those opportunities as you have your conversations with recruiters and hiring managers and get to the person who actually can make the decision who would be your next boss. That's what this tool is all about. So it's really hopefully going to help you become much more competitive in what is a bit of a tighter market when you're getting into these high paying positions. So let's just jump right in to the actual presentation. Um, it's the same set of slides that I talked about in the article and the video, except today we're going to show you one way to do this. And I think that's important to recognize that this is how we do it. As long as you have these informations on each slide in this order, you're going to be fine. So if you want the photo to be somewhere else and you want to reorganize it, that's fine. This is kind of how we do it. This is the template that we often use. So first thing is you want to always have at the top the first name, your initial, and your last name. And if you look at the very bottom of the slide, you'll see again there in the footer is the first name, your initial again, and your last name, and then your email, and then your phone number. You want that on every single slide in the footer, because you never know if someone's going to pull off a slide and ship it off to somebody. So you want your contact details in some form to be on every single slide. So in this slide, what we're doing is we're actually doing something where we're doing a description. Now, this biography is not what you have on LinkedIn. It's not what's in your about section. Think of this as something that might go in a proposal to a client that really talks in 3 paragraphs about who you are, your background, where you've worked, what you've done, what you've created. This is really selling yourself now to a prospective employer. So this is a place where if you feel a little bit constrained on the resume, this is one of the areas, and why we do this deck, where you actually can expand beyond your resume and explain a bit more. So you want to have a good 3 paragraphs or a good bio on you. The photo, if you do not have a professionally taken LinkedIn photo, you definitely want to have that done. It's not that expensive in most places. A lot of even department stores will do this. And some people do it as a service. Just go onto Google and type in LinkedIn photo services, whatever, and you'll find somebody in your town that does this for 25, 30, $50. It's well worth the investment to get it done. It's what everybody should be using. It really says, I'm a professional person. And you don't want to ever have on LinkedIn or any of these things any kind of vacation photo or selfie photo. You really need to have a professionally taken photo of yourself. And the way you tell how that looks is go look at the CEO of any company you're targeting and look at their profile, and you'll see some kind of professional photo. Probably came off of their website as well, so you want that. On the contact details, again, you want your email address. This should be your personal email address, not your work email address. You want to put your phone number. I recommend you put your mobile phone number, and you might want to put an M so people know that it's a mobile number. Then they can text you if they wish to do that. At this point in the discussion, you probably already are giving your address. If you're not comfortable with that at this point, you sort of can just put down your city and your state and your zip. But typically, this is not something that you show a recruiter. You might send it to a hiring manager after you've had the first interview. This is typically something that you want to show the person who actually has the job. But you may need to use this deck with the hiring manager to get past them to get to the person who actually has the position. And then you do want to have, pardon me, your education there. And that can just be your university, the city, and the state. And if you graduated with honors, do include that as well. So that's kind of your bio slide. Your next slide is what I call kind of the candidate experience or career summary slide. Again, everything on the left is the same photo, same contact details, all that's the same. The rest of it is really short. It's like a resume summary. It's the company you worked for, the title you had, the city it was in, and the year. Don't do months, just do year to year or year to present. And if you have a career that's gone beyond, 10, 12 years, and most of us have resumes now that kind of stop at that time frame, on your LinkedIn and on this document, you want to list everything that's relevant. If you're now in technology sales and you started your career working in auto sales, you might want to drop that off. But your technology sales track or technology career track, you want to have that on here and on your LinkedIn, even if it's beyond 12 years or 10 years, because it really says again about your experience. So that really is the candidate experience kind of resume walk slide. This is what I call the professional references slide, and this is really important because if you've not been in the job market for some time, things have radically changed. Most employers of any size, when you leave, you will negotiate what's called the exit letter, and it goes into your file. Not every company does this, but pretty much anybody of size is doing it now. And that letter will kind of cover that yes, you worked there from date X to date Y, you had this title, and that's about it. And many employers today are not comfortable and will not confirm anything beyond that. There's been a number of lawsuits that have gone on where somebody said the wrong thing and it cost somebody a position. So your professional references now are becoming much more important, not your personal. That's different. This is professional references. This is why when you leave a position, you have to make sure you're leaving position either with your boss or somebody in your environment on very good terms, because that becomes your professional reference for that position. So that's really critical. Even better though, if you have some customer that you've worked with who has a significant title. I mean, don't put down, managing people. It needs to be a director level or a VP level, CX if you can get it. Those are great because it says I have customers now who act as a professional reference. So you need 3 of these. You need a great photo. Hopefully you can get it off the internet. If you can't get a photo, you need to probably find somebody else. Visually, things are very important. So again, just their first name, their last name. If they've had multiple jobs, list the last 2 or 3 titles, and then just write a couple of 4 or 5 lines about the summary of who they are. Not how you know them, not what you've done for them. This is where you're selling the value of the reference. This is like looking into your Rolodex. So it's much more about them. It's not about you. The next slide is your account experience, and this is a slide that requires a lot of customization. I can't really give you a standard version of it, but most of us either work in some kind of vertically aligned business, some geographically aligned territory, or maybe some kind of technology alignment. These should be logos of companies where you not only have experience but have relationships. This is what I call the promise slide. This is telling your prospective employer, probably in most cases they'll receive it as, so if I hire you, these are the accounts that you're pretty comfortable that if we have the right offering, of course, that you would be able to get meetings with the right kinds of people, first maybe 90, 120 days. So it's not just places that you've been casually involved in or you were on some project. This has to be places where you know people, to where you can at least call up people and say, this is where I'm at now. I'd like to find out how to get more involved with your company. You've got to have an in, if you will. So this is a promise slide. This is one of the slides when we're working with people we do a lot of customization on. It's a very, very important slide. Success stories. Now, we're all familiar with success stories in terms of how we tell clients about what we've done as a company. This actually is a sales success story. I don't list it that way. I list it as a success story because we are, in fact, talking usually about some kind of sales or client partner position. So it follows the standard format a lot of us use and know well, just the focus is different. So obviously we have a solution title. How was the project named, from the client's perspective? What is kind of the problem statement in the problem title? What was the deal size? Round numbers, of course. And then, of course, the obvious, what were the business challenges that they had? Obviously, you want to put those into some kind of metric, either lack of revenue, margin, market share, time to market, whatever the problems were. The more you can quantify those into a percentage, a time metric, or a revenue metric, the better. Then, of course, we have the vision and approach to the project, which kind of breaks down to three pieces. What were the key aspects of the problem and why was the solution the right solution? Why was it unique? And how did you go about positioning it from a sales perspective? What were the key milestones, and not only in the sales process, but also in delivering the actual project? And again, then a bit more detail on the discussion about how big of a deal, the complexity of it, size, scope, etc. And then, of course, at the bottom, we're down to results delivered. And that's results delivered really to your client and to your employer again. So it gets back to quantifiable terms. Client got X amount of, revenue improvement, whatever. And then for your employer, to the degree you're allowed to communicate this under non-disclosure, of course, under your contract, you might want to put, above X numbers or above Y margin. Be non-specific. But be very careful that you're not giving up any information that's actually confidential here. So some of these things, if they're more than maybe 2 years old, you're going to be okay. But if it's a recent deal, be very, very careful because it could be something that's important. Do not put things in here that are deals that you might be able to bring with you. That also may be a violation of your agreement. These are past deals you've been involved in, and you want to pick three. And you may have to have a library of these, frankly, because if you're going for a company that's more, say, in the cloud, you may need to have more of a cloud story, have three cloud stories. If someone's more focused on DevOps, you probably better have some DevOps stories. So these are slides where you may have a library of perhaps 9 or 12 of these, and you drag them in as you need to fit the opportunity that you're chasing. So you really have about three of those. Industry trends. This is where you talk about your knowledge about thought leadership and business knowledge. And so I break this into two pieces. It's really what are the business priorities that your client or the market has. And this is not about XY company, it's about this vertical. And you'll have to look at this for each of your own businesses, but I find this is usually either about the customer side, the customer facing part of their business, or it's about the supply chain part of their business, and it could be both. But for your vertical pretty much what are the priorities of the companies that you have worked with, kind of what their issues are and what they're working on. And that translates into technology priorities. And these are things that they're actually spending money on. So when you make these kind of comments, it's really more about projects that you know about or have been involved in. It's not we're interested in. It's gone beyond that now into we have budget cycling going on for next year about spending some money. So this is where you kind of show more of a consultative capability. You're not just taking an offer from your company and going to the market. It says you know something about the market and something about the clients in it. So this is another slide where a lot of customization, a lot of work has to get done. Market strategy. This is another slide where some of this has to be massaged a bit, but a lot of this is pretty much the same. You need to have an account strategy, and that's why this is important, because in your first year in a new role, it's going to be different than your second year. In your first year, you have to work with your management team to figure out, if you're a hunter, what are the 2 or 3 areas or offerings that you have the highest probability of closing a piece of business in the first year. And you have to spend, literally 80% of your time on those opportunities. So this is why we have kind of the primary focus on and specific focus on type of accounts. Then you want to get into this idea that we're driving the agenda, we're not reacting. You'll have to massage some of these points yourself as well. Where does thought leadership make the difference? And you're going to be very mindful about how you're pursuing accounts so that you're really only spending time where things really happen. Sales strategies is pretty much the same idea. It's the 80-20 rule. The understanding the key realities of sales success, some of what I just talked about, which is these key milestones about getting revenue, within year one, and working with the team and leveraging all your people. You'll have to massage that again as a bit. But I find this fourth box at the bottom is really important because it really helps people understand where you are, and it gives them a real clear idea. And it basically comes down to these two numbers. And I often orally communicate this to people when I was hunting for jobs years ago, which was we got to find a certain number of people who've got a problem that we can solve in a certain number of months. Because we know if we get it by Y months, then we have a chance to close business before the end of that very first year. So that's why I have this box bottom right, because it kind of boils it all down to a couple of numbers. And then you can have a conversation about, does this make sense to you? And is your sales cycle 4 to 6 weeks? Is it 4 to 6 months? Is it beyond 1 year? All of us know we have products and services that are somewhat different in that area. Now we're getting into kind of the classic 30, 60, 90-day summary. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because most of us already has this. If you don't have this, this is a good introduction to it. And what you'll typically find is the first 30 days is really more about the onboarding, learning about the company, and kind of contacting the accounts where you have the deepest relationships, where what the company you're working for now has an offer they would be interested in. Don't just contact a ton of people. Get focused on people that you know might need what your current employer, your new employer, actually is selling. Your next period of time is kind of shifts out of onboarding. It's more expanding the account basis, trying to get some things qualified and keep things moving. Your 90-day summary is exactly the same. But again, the bottom line here is really important. You'll have to modify this again based upon your sales cycle. So typically, if people I work with in technology, everybody kind of has this 1 year kind of signpost. So we're trying to get proposals out the door and some kind of closed business if we can in the first 6 months. And we find typically, and as a consultant, when I find salespeople wherever they are that have achieved this, they end up staying. And those that don't end up leaving. And there's a lot of reasons why that is, but it just seems to be a logical thing that we're seeing in the marketplace over the last 20 some odd years. So again, you have your 30-day action plan. These are all somewhat generic. I often tell people when I show this plan or send them to them that this is somewhat generic, and I'd like to evolve this together with you. I'd like to have another dialogue with you about how to build this out. We have another slide which I'm not showing you today, but we do give to our clients who we work with. It actually reduces all of this down to 30 days. It's a very powerful tool. I kind of keep that in the hip pocket, tell people if you're getting some resistance, if you're not being moved forward, or you don't see that you're like really one of the top 1 or 2 or 3 candidates, hold that card in your vest pocket and then pull that out and say, hey, I was thinking about our conversation. I think we can reduce this 90 days down to 30. Here is a plan. Can we have a call and discuss it? And we're happy to provide that. We provide that to our clients as well. So that's the 30-day plan, mostly internal. 60-day plan, again, mostly external, getting things started. 90-day plan, again, is much more about maturity and getting things to happen. A lot of this is very generic. So that's really the slide deck that we talked about, not only in the article, but in the video that I put up on LinkedIn. So I want to move one more concept. A lot of people have asked me about, is there some way that we can get help on this? Because it looks very powerful, but I'm not really confident that I could really fill all this up. And I want to take a minute and just talk about all of these documents, whether it's a resume, whether it's your LinkedIn profile, or something like this. There are some great people out there that can help you put all that together as a consultant, right? But here's the thing, if they're not people that have recently been in the hiring position, making decisions about you as a candidate or candidates in general, it's kind of a best guess. And so I would tell you, no matter what you're doing with these documents, if you just had a new resume written by somebody that you've hired, send it to 5 or 6 people that you trust and know and say, what do you think? Before you close out that engagement with somebody. There are people doing the same thing now with LinkedIn profiles. Before you actually publish that, have some people that you trust, former bosses, former colleagues, whatever, have them look at that. This is what our clients tell us about the service that we offer here. And we do all of those for our clients as well. But when we talk about this deck that we're talking about today, what we hear most often is that why it was so helpful is that we know as a company you're evaluating salespeople for clients, not as a recruiter, but as a consulting organization to find the right people. So we know this document you're producing with us is market battle ready. It's not somebody's theory. It's written by people who are in the market today, evaluating people and finding people new opportunities. And that's probably the key difference. So, based upon the response we've had to this, we've decided to kind of offer this as a very limited service over a couple of weeks. Not everybody's the right fit for this. So if you have some interest in getting access not only to kind of our slide decks, we have it both in Keynote, we have it both in PowerPoint, we have a landscape version as well as a letter version. I would recommend you do it in landscape if you're doing it on your own. It kind of eliminates people printing it out and things get forwarded a lot more easy, I find, as opposed to doing it in letter form. But if you think you need some help in getting this put together, or you've got one that you've used or been using and it's just not working for you, we are going to put together a special offer, which we're making very affordable, but it's very limited. And I really only can work with about 10 or 15 people a month on this project. We do it through a series of half-an-hour calls, which we schedule either twice a week or once a week, depending upon how soon you get the homework done. And so it's a neat opportunity to have not only somebody give you the tool, but to actually guide you through the process of building the tool and also customize it for you and make sure that the things that you believe are critical in your career path and where you're trying to go come through in the document. If this is interesting to you and you want to learn more, you'll see down below here below the video in the first comment, there's a link to a Calendly invite calendar. And that's the best way to schedule a short 15-minute call with myself. You'll be speaking directly with me to talk about your plan. If you have an existing plan, we're going to ask you to email that to us first. Because then we'll evaluate it and we can discuss it very quickly. And if you don't have a plan, we can talk to you about how we help you put that together. We're making this situation very affordable. It's a brand new offer. We're trying to broaden our abilities to help people out in this kind of challenging job market with so many very qualified people kind of coming back into the market competing for these jobs. So I'm hoping this has been very helpful to you all. Again, appreciate your comments below. Feel free to reach out to set up a time to talk about your plan and how we can help you. And I'll close with those notes. And, let's just have a fantastic sales week. Keep seeking knowledge. Don't worry about yes or no. The answer is no more than your competition. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a fantastic sales week. Hope to speak to you all again very, very soon.